Hey guys, and welcome to our 100th episode special. But before we get started answering some of your questions that you guys want answered, I want to stop for a second and just say thanks. Thanks for being on the front lines of every battle, every court case, and every crazy politician soundtrack.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to excuse me.
This year was probably the most relentless attack on our Second Amendment rights in American history. But we fought against it every step of the way. But our efforts wouldn't mean anything if it wasn't for you guys stepping up and taking action. You submitted tens of thousands of comments, made thousands of contacts to every single senator and congressman, and shared our social media messages, giving our content millions of views. And one of the things we love most about GOA is our members. You always ask thoughtful and intricate questions, so please keep them coming. And we try to keep a pulse on what the concerns and priorities are with the gun community, so please keep commenting. Recently, we asked you to give us your questions for me to answer for our 100th Spectacular. You submitted, and while this isn't exactly the 100th episode, we did want to answer them. So the first question is from Enrico Maria Castaldo. Is it possible to establish the right to keep and bear arms in a country that doesn't have a constitution like the US? Good question. Being that this is the gun owners of America, we don't really have an official position on that. But as someone who's worked in foreign affairs in Congress, I can tell you that when we try to export our ideas to other countries, it doesn't really work well. So let's fix what's wrong here first before we start suggesting to other people what they should be doing with themselves. Here's a second question from Irreverent Asian. Anything in the works to start chipping away at the NFA? Another great question. We are absolutely doing that right now. We've been working with multiple House and Senate offices to do just that. We call it our Second Amendment Rescue Plan, and we've talked about it before in previous videos. Additionally, we've also filed a couple of lawsuits to torpedo the Hughes Amendment, and we defended Kansas's Made in Kansas Act, which allowed Jeremy Kettler to purchase a suppressor. We helped write, introduce, and gather support for bills which would not only remove short-barreled rifles, short-barreled shotguns, and any other weapons from the NFA, but we're also pushing to remove the NFA's registry of those guns in addition to the bigger ATF registry on all firearms. Mostly what we do is meet with offices behind the scenes. And about a week ago, just before this video was filmed, GOA met with about 30 or 40 staff from different offices to talk about just this: the NFA, the registry, unconstitutional gun laws. It was great. But it always helps if these guys can hear from you. So look up HR 4312, which deregulates SBSs, HR 6817, which deregulates AOWs, and HR 1758 or HR 933. They both do the same thing, which is to deregulate SBRs. If your representative isn't on those bills, make sure to call them and ask to be a co-sponsor. By the way, a lot of you guys have asked questions about infringements in your particular state. I know it sucks to live in a place with a lot of restrictions. I live in DC, believe me. But how we choose to fight is to go for the jugular, not every shiny thing. When we challenge a magazine ban or an unfair licensing process, we don't challenge it because it's in one particular state. We challenge it because we have a strong case which we can carry up the food chain and establish a precedent which is faithful to the Constitution and forces the state and city governments to comply with the Second Amendment like they should have been doing from the beginning. Take the Bruen case, for example. Because the case started in New York State and carried it up to the Supreme Court, now anti-gun states like Hawaii and Maryland are being forced to comply. Here's another question. Chaos Gear Sales asks, we've got 19 states siding with the ATF's final rule. Got a count on how many are against it? GOA's lawsuit against the rule was joined by 17 attorneys general in 17 different states. Arizona, West Virginia, Alaska, Arkansas, Idaho, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Texas, Utah, and Wyoming. CW7 Pew Writes asks, thanks for everything you guys have done for the Second Amendment. Okay, that wasn't really a question, but you're welcome. And thanks for everything you're doing. Fireman 13.13 asks, when is it go time? That's what we need to know collectively. Fed. All right, Moondog4224 asks, can the pistol brace and the AR-15 survive this onslaught? Great question, and the answer is absolutely. But it all really depends on how dedicated you and the rest of gun owners are in fighting back. These lawmakers need to know how tyrannical these infringements are and that you're not going to put up with it when it comes time to vote. And they'll only know if you tell them. Plus, I'm an optimist. The Happy Beekeeper asks, why does New York hate gun owners? Well, partially that's because they're tyrants who prefer their control over your freedom. But at the end of the day, I don't think this is about guns. I think this is about anything you can use to challenge their authority. I mean, just look at what they're doing with things like big tech. Your Twitter, your Instagram, YouTube, that's not a gun, but it's a tool that we can use to spread a message that they think undermines their authority. All right, you guys asked a lot more questions, but I think that's enough for now. If you like this format, we'll try to do it more regularly. All right, just as we're finishing up, we love making these videos. It's 100% worth it because you guys make it all happen. So on behalf of everyone here at the Minuteman Moment and at GOA and Tiffany, who's in the corner doing producer stuff, please like and share this message. I'm Phil, and I'll see you next time.